Welcome to the Mystic's Garden, where power and beauty are reclaimed. Together, we'll explore discernment, healing, and the deeper transformations that return us to what is sacred. Hi, I'm Ellen Laura, and I'm so glad to be here with you again. For those of you who've been listening, sharing, and entering these mysteries with me, this episode opens the gates more fully into the Mystic's Garden, a place where we explore what thrives, blooms, and what may still be stuck in the mud. My guest is my dear friend Laura Zollar. She's a gifted artist, energy healer, psychic, and tarot card reader. My life has been blessed by several people who embody generosity. And if you're listening now, you know who you are. And Laura, she's one of them. For nearly 25 years, she's been there for me, offering her love, encouragement, and support. And that generosity, it's reflected in her human design chart. Her sun shines through the gate 54, line 5, carrying the exaltation of magnanimity. That's a word associated with greatness of mind and dignity of the soul. The ability to meet trouble with steadiness and refuse to be shaped by injustice, meanness, or revenge, and act for something noble. As you'll hear, Laura's generosity is not an abstract virtue. It's been tested in the mud of lived experience. Over the past year, she helped her mother cross from this life. Then she helped her father sell his home and moved into assisted living so he could be closer to her. And only afterward could she look back on everything over that past year, everything that she's carried, and recognize that what she had done, in her own words, was superhuman. And so, before you hear Laura, I'd like to begin with you. Have you ever moved through something that felt like climbing through mud? Perhaps you were grieving someone you loved while you still had to answer the telephone, sign papers, sort belongings, and make decisions that could not wait for your heart to catch up. Or perhaps you were caring for someone else while quietly wondering who's there to care for you. Or perhaps you were trying to emerge from a relationship or a situation that's diminished you, one that left you questioning your own perceptions, your beauty, or the strength you once knew was yours. So let's pause and reflect. Where are you today? Are you still beneath the surface, moving through something dense and difficult? Or have you begun to feel yourself rising? Are you now looking back and recognizing the magnitude of what you've actually survived? And I want us to explore the lotus flower. It's become one of our most beloved spiritual symbols. We see the open flower resting serenely above the water, untouched in appearance by the mud out of which it grew. But we rarely speak about the journey that exists beneath the surface, that long stem that had to push upward through dark water, through everything the lotus needs to reach the light. And not every lotus blooms simply because it has struggled. It needs warmth, nourishment, light, and time. And that's true of us also. So if you're still in the mud, this episode isn't asking you to bloom on command. It's asking you to notice what is still alive within you and what may already be reaching toward the light, toward those of us who are here with you now. And the full moon, she brings illumination. She may reveal what's ready to be released, and she can also show what we've already accomplished, the strength we couldn't recognize while we were too busy surviving. So today, I'm asking what helps us rise through the mud, how we transform pain into power, and what really changes when we finally recognize the extraordinary being who has made it through. Laura, we've been friends for almost 25 years, and I've always admired not only your ability as a healer and a tarot card reader, but you're an artist, and not everyone knows that about you. I have one of your most exquisite paintings that you've gifted me with, the White Lotus. And it's always had significance to me, and of course many of the people listening here, most people who've entered some kind of mystical study are very familiar with the meaning of a lotus. And I'd like you to speak to the audience, to the people listening today, to share what the lotus has meant to you and what it might mean to someone who's still struggling.
Well, when I originally painted that White Lotus painting you're talking about, it was really more about purity and spirituality, and I was really discovering new aspects of my own spiritual world. And then I drew another lotus recently that I had posted on my tarot channel. You can watch me draw while I do the reading. And the lotus means something a little bit different now for me. And it's really more about the actual development of the lotus, the struggle from where it starts at the bottom of the pond and then pushes its way up towards the light, to reach the surface. And what it took to become that gorgeous flower, because not all the lotuses make it, right? So when you do make it, when you get through something very difficult, to really shine, to come through on the other end, even better than you thought, that's really saying something. So when I was thinking back on what I had to go through recently with my mother's death and everything that surrounded that, and then having to care for my elderly father, I had to be superhuman. I really did. And I was just recently able, when I've completed many of these things, able to look back and say, wow, I did all of that. I did that by myself. And I was superhuman in doing it. And that's when the lotus really recognizes itself and says, oh yeah, I really am this full, true expression of the divine, and I did all of this, and I'm really amazing. So for me, that's what the lotus represents, is when we have these real perks in our life and we've gone through something very difficult, the beauty that comes out of it on the other end can be really astonishing and amazing. And that's how I feel right now. It's like, wow, I did this, and look at all these good things that are coming now.
A lot of the podcasts that we've been doing is about reclaiming your beauty, reclaiming your power, and no longer allowing people to have access to us who don't deserve it, whether they were narcissistic or whether they were gaslighting us. So if someone's going through something now, and in order for them to begin to reclaim that power and beauty, what might you suggest?
Well, a couple things. One of the things I do all the time is I really work on improving my inner talk, my self-love. So if someone's being really nasty to me, for instance, for whatever reason, I love myself harder. I go inward instead of worrying about what they're saying and what they're doing and all of that. I go inward and I say, why is this triggering me, for one thing? Why is this, creating any kind of stress for me? And I can look at that, and then I can also love myself more, speak to myself more, and say, things to myself like, you're great, Laura. You work really hard, you do the best you can, and you're a good person. And this person is just a lesson for you so that you can love yourself even more and see how great you are. So that's one thing. The other thing I do is I'm an artist, so I focus in on my creativity even more. I draw more, I paint more, I create more. And I find that that's an excellent way to transmute or change any kind of energy that is flowing through my life that is uncomfortable or is causing me any kind of pain. And it's literally a switching of pain to power. That's really what I'm doing, is transmuting that.
Thank you, Laura. That statement, I love myself harder, there's something so wonderfully fierce in that choice of words. When another person is unkind, dismissive, or determined to distort reality, you found a way to not waste your energy trying to understand them, placate them, or win them over. You return to yourself and you examine what's been triggered. And you don't remain there indefinitely, setting up housekeeping in someone else's opinion. You speak to yourself with love. Now that's something we can all be inspired to do. You draw, paint, and create. And through that creative act, you change the form of energy that's moving through you. And pain, it becomes power. Not because the pain was imaginary, because everything happened was secretly wonderful or necessary, or because creating beauty erases grief. No, the transformation occurs because the pain is no longer allowed to have the final word in the story. Your description of being superhuman, it stays with me. Your mother was dying, and you had decisions to make, responsibilities to carry, and an elderly father who needed help. And you helped him sell his house and move into assisted living so he could be closer to you. And while you lived through it, you simply did what needed to be done, and it was only later that you could say, "Wow, I did all of that." So I'm asking those of you who are listening, perhaps you've lived through such a season. Perhaps you're living through one right now. You may not feel powerful. You may feel exhausted, frightened, impatient, or angry, or numb. And strength isn't always something we feel while we're accessing it. Sometimes it only becomes visible when we finally look back. There's another side to being superhuman. Life may occasionally demand it from us, but it shouldn't become a permanent identity, because there comes a time to put down the paperwork, the armor, the vigilance, and the endless responsibility. And there comes a time when surviving must begin to make room for living, for blooming, for rising up. Even the lotus doesn't bloom through effort alone. It receives warmth, nourishment, and light. So let me ask those of you listening, what have you survived that you've never fully acknowledged yourself for? What did you carry because someone had to carry it? And what did you accomplish while believing you were merely getting through another day? And now, can you offer yourself, if only for this moment, the recognition that you have been waiting to receive from someone else? Can you say, "I did that, I made it through, and I'm still here"? Perhaps the lotus isn't asking us to pretend the mud was beautiful. Perhaps it's asking us to see the beauty that remained alive within us while we moved through it. Laura's intuitive way of moving through life didn't begin with the recent passage of grief. Like many who travel the mystic's path, she first experienced her abilities as a child, long before she had any language for what was happening. And some intuitive children, they're welcomed and encouraged. Others learn quickly that certain perceptions make the adults very uncomfortable. The experiences could be dismissed, laughed at, explained away, or quietly brushed beneath the family rug, where inconvenient mysteries apparently go to wait. My own experiences of the unseen weren't encouraged. Most of my relatives feared anything, even related to being psychic. The sacred and mysterious, yes, they are part of Catholic imagery, and yet there were very strict rules and ideas about who was permitted to receive messages and what forms those messages were allowed to take. So I'd like you to listen to what I asked Laura about her own early abilities and how they emerged. Laura, many of the people listening have had experiences when they were younger that gave hints that they had abilities, that they were being guided toward the unseen. I know I did as a child and a teenager, but I grew up in this Italian Catholic environment where it wasn't encouraged. So I'm curious, how was that for you growing up? What experiences did you have that gave you hints or clues that you would be someone who would explore the unseen, and were you supported in this?
No, I mean, my family didn't support that. And even though definitely on my father's side there is a strong psychic ability, which I've talked to about him since, when I was growing up, any kind of things I was seeing or hearing, anything paranormal was kind of brushed under the rug. But I remember some fun things like I used to love to play board games, and I used to play this one game called Battleship. This is the original Battleship where you have the little plastic pieces. And I could actually see my opponent's pieces on my own board as like little shadows. So I knew exactly where their pieces were, and I would win the game over and over again. And I guess that might be a form of cheating, but I didn't know that. And I didn't really know at the time when I was a child that that was a psychic ability. I just thought this is a fun superpower that I have, and I don't need to tell anybody. But I just remember things like that that were fun things, and I still can do some of that in other ways now. But that was early on when we didn't really have labels like psychic. I think the term back then was ESP, and nobody talked about it and stuff like that. So, but I do know, like I remember when I was a teenager, I saved my family's life. We were in the car, my mother was driving, and I had this really strong feeling that we needed to stop the car. And I told her that. I said, "Stop the car now," and she did. And these two deer with full antlers and everything, they jumped across the road right where we would have been, and then hopped off. And if we had kept going, then we would have hit them, and everybody probably would have died. So there were things like that happened. But of course, my family would not acknowledge it. Nobody said, "Oh, hey, thanks for saving our life," or "That's amazing that you knew that was going to happen." So it wasn't until later on that I understood that really it was more about suppression, and I did not do that with my own child. And today I fully acknowledge and accept my abilities, and with all the clairs, meaning, claircognizance, clairaudience, clairsentience, all the abilities to feel and see and know in a psychic kind of way are just sort of naturally integrated into my life all the time. And what I do is I do have a channel on YouTube where I draw an image that I receive in meditation, and it goes with a reading that I do for the collective of people who are watching. It's a free service I provide on YouTube, but this is my way of giving back and using my psychic abilities to do so. But I also, I help out my friends, and I use psychic abilities on a daily basis to help me move through life, because I like to stay in the flow of the universe, and I recognize myself as a co-creator with the universe. So part of that for me is staying intuitively in tune. It's not just about intellectualizing life or having to logically think about everything. It's also moving with a sense of just knowing where to move and a flow, if that makes sense.
It absolutely makes sense. I remember hearing from a friend once that the definition of a materialist is one who moves through life only using the 5 physical senses. So those of us who are here exploring the mystic's path, we've experienced those other abilities, and we're honored to be able to use them for our own benefit, for those close to us, and in the world. Mm-hmm. Laura, I love the image of you playing Battleship and seeing the positions of your opponent's pieces as shadows on the board. So there it was, your superpower was already showing up. And it tells us something important, because before children learn to mistrust what they perceive, these unusual ways of knowing, they just feel completely natural. And then, of course, there's the more serious moment where you helped your family. You had your mother stop the car, and no one acknowledged what you had done. And yet the knowing was real, even if the people around could not give it a name. There are times when an intuitive experience is dismissed, and then we begin dismissing ourselves. We learn to mistrust the body's signals and explain away our perceptions and seek confirmation from others before honoring what we really know. But suppression does not always destroy those abilities. Sometimes they're merely underground, where they wait like the lotus, rooted beneath the water, waiting for the conditions in which they can safely emerge. Your intuitive senses are now naturally integrated into your life. You don't use them to withdraw from the visible world, but instead to move through it with greater awareness. You listen with more than your intellect. You recognize yourself as a co-creator with the universe, and you follow the currents that cannot always be logically explained. This, to me, is one of the most important distinctions on the mystic's path. The unseen shouldn't make us less present in our lives. It should help us become more discerning, creative, and fully alive. Intuition doesn't require us to abandon reason or logic, and genuine spiritual guidance doesn't ask us to surrender our inner authority. It deepens our relationship with it. The only question isn't, what am I sensing? The other question is, what happens when I honor what I sense? Does it make me more grounded, more compassionate, or do I become frightened? Am I more capable of meeting my life, or somehow eager to escape it? And those abilities, psychic abilities, they carry a responsibility. Inner knowing isn't permission to enter another person's life uninvited or announce what we believe we've seen as though it were unquestionable. When I counsel or guide someone, I offer only what they've asked me to explore with them, and I speak when invited. Even then, I leave room for humility. Because an impression, whether it's of a psychic experience, a past life, it's still an impression, not a final verdict. I would say be very cautious of anyone who makes dramatic declarations about your life, your relationships, or your future and expects you to accept them because they claim this information came from divine spirit or some tool or system they've used. What is presented as knowing may sometimes be projection, personal opinion, or the desire to appear powerful. Genuine guidance respects boundaries. It never frightens you. It doesn't override your discernment or make you dependent on the person who's delivering it. Whatever is offered should be placed beside your own inner knowing, not above it. Wisdom from the unseen should return us to the visible world with clearer eyes. Laura has tuned into those of you listening, and she's pulled several cards revealing themes that may be arising for you during this cycle of your life. So whether or not you're familiar with the images and the tarot cards, her guidance may speak to something that you're experiencing now and offer insight into how you can move through it with greater awareness and grace. Listen for what feels true for you and allow your own inner knowing to guide you.
So I've done a spread here of tarot for the collective of people who are tuning into the frequency of the Mystic's Garden. And I did an initial spread where it's showing what's kind of going on for the collective watching and then what the solutions, the best solutions would be. So let's just start with what the three cards that I pulled for the what's going on for you currently, which is the Five of Wands, the Three of Swords, and the Two of Pentacles. Five of Wands is all about competition, right? That's all about, it could be healthy competition, it could be sports, but usually it's about just someone competing with you. So you might feel like you're in a situation where you're having to compete or people are competing with you. But it's clarified by the Queen of Swords, which is all about having boundaries. The Queen of Swords been through a lot. She knows when to cut people off when they're being dishonest or trying to disturb the peace. It's also clarified by the Fool, which tells me that you're considering just leaving everything behind altogether. But I don't think that's what you're going to do. That's just showing me those are the options you're kind of thinking of. And then you have the Three of Swords here, which is all about heartbreak. It's about feeling heartbroken. And so I feel like this whole entire reading is leaning towards relationships. It could be a work situation, but I feel like this is more about relationships and you being heartbroken about something, because this is also clarified by the Eight of Swords, which is about having an imprisoned mind, kind of feeling isolated. It's almost like a victim type of feeling, feeling like your hands are tied, or you might be dealing with drama. You might be dealing with the drama queen, because this is also clarified by the King of Wands. And the King of Wands is kind of a lusty person. This is someone who could be very creative. You might be creative as well. But I feel like you are either struggling with your own creativity, or you've been dealing with somebody who is a sort of lusty creative type that it's just not really working out the way that you wanted to. And then the next card for what's going on for you is the Two of Pentacles, which is about juggling resources. So you've been sort of juggling things and juggling ideas about what you should do, because it's clarified by the Two of Wands. Two of Wands is all about making choices, right? So this could be travel as well. But I feel like you're having to decide whether or not you should stay or you should go with the situation or wherever you're located. Because the other clarifier on here is death, and death is ending. So you're still kind of deciding, should I kill this off, or should I move forward with this other thing? Where should I put my energy and resources? Because also it's clarified by the Five of Wands again. So that's the second Five of Wands that you have, which is all about competition. This is about, it could be even contentiousness. I feel like there's a lot of drama going on in your life, and it's like causing some stress. Now, looking at the solutions, we have the Nine of Wands, the Ten of Cups, and the Six of Pentacles. The Nine of Wands is all about towing the line and having good, strong boundaries, which we already talked about with the Queen of Swords, right? The Nine of Wands is clarified by the Lovers and the Ace of Swords. The Ace of Swords is about truth. So what it's telling me is stand for your truth. Do not back down from the truth. There'll be people who want you to compromise your truth, compromise your values. Don't do that. Stand up for yourself, stand up for your values. And you might have to do this with regard to a partnership, because the Lovers is all about partnerships. It could be romantic, so you might have to put boundaries up against somebody that you love. If it's a business situation, then that could be like having better boundaries with regard to how you work in that work relationship. And then we have the Ten of Cups, which is ultimate happiness. This is a couple who's sitting and watching their happy kids playing. All the cups are in the rainbow colors. You know, this is just ultimately being happy. This is having a full heart, feeling really fulfilled. It's clarified by the Ace of Wands and the Empress, which are excellent, because the Ace of Wands, that's about new ideas. It's about being excited about life. It's about intention, could be inheritance. It's about new projects, just passion in general. And having that clarify the Ten of Cups is amazing, and it's sitting right in the middle of your solutions here. So keep focusing on your happiness. Keep focusing on what makes you happy. You know, what aligns with your value system. What gets you up in the morning. You know, what you can think about that's like, oh, I just love doing that. You know, because the Empress is about that too. She's about vitality and abundance, and she's about fertility, like new ideas, creativity, things like that, beauty. So I can see that this potential is here, and that's what you're working towards. So keep, while you're sometimes worried about what's going on and it keeps your focus on that a lot, try to shift your focus as much as you can onto what you actually do want. Put your energy towards what you want. Keep your boundaries up, put your energy and your focus towards what you want, and you'll see you'll get more of that. It's what you feed is what you get, right? So when you're juggling these resources, just keep that in mind. And then you have the Six of Pentacles, which is about equal give and take. So this tells me that you are looking for relationships that are balanced, where what you give, it's reciprocal. So you get what you take, right? And it's clarified by the Nine of Pentacles, which is the slowest moving knight in the deck, but the knight is reliable. This is whatever's coming in, whatever you're building with regard to relationships or money is reliable. It might take a little longer, but it's worth it. So toe the line, keep your boundaries, keep your eye on the prize. And then this is also clarified by Judgment, which is karma. So I would say your good karma is going, but it's coming to you, but you've got to keep in mind to keep things balanced, and keep your eye on the prize, keep your eye on what's good and what you love, love yourself more. Keep those boundaries up. That's what self-love is about. Mostly is about having healthy boundaries, and talk kindly to yourself. That's important too. So that's your reading as a collective for this particular episode. And I hope that helps. Thanks.
Laura, thank you so much for that beautiful reading. Before we leave the garden, I'm asking each of you to take a few more deep breaths and notice what stayed with you. Was there a card, an image, a word, or a phrase that spoke directly to the place where you are now in your life? Did it reveal something more about those rooms we've been exploring? Who's in your bedroom? Who is in your kitchen? What's on your altar? Who has access to the energy in your life? Is it allowing you to reclaim more of your own beauty and power? The lotus has become beautiful because life has continued moving through it. Perhaps you're still beneath the surface. Perhaps the light might feel close, or it may feel distant, and nothing in your present circumstances resembles a flower. You may be gathering strength, or you may be forming roots. You may need rest, nourishment, help, or time, not another command to rise above everything. Or perhaps, like Laura and like me and those of us with you in the garden, you've already emerged enough, but haven't paused long enough to see yourself fully and say how much you love yourself. So during this cycle of the full moon, allow its light to fall upon your entire journey, not only the places where you've struggled, but also the strength, the wisdom, and the beauty that's come forward when you were asked to meet what once seemed impossible. You may have been stronger than you knew. You may have received guidance you were once taught to dismiss, and you may already be transforming pain into power each time that you speak to yourself with love or you create something that didn't exist before. Perhaps loving yourself harder doesn't mean hardening your heart at all. Perhaps it means becoming more fiercely loyal to the life within you. The lotus isn't the only flower above the water. It's the root, the mud, the long unseen reaching, and the moment it finally recognizes itself in the light. Thank you for entering the Mystic's Garden with me and with Laura, and share this with anyone you feel would be uplifted or moved by what has been shared with you today. Thank you for listening and being present here. Until next time, protect what is precious in yourself, in each other, and in the world.